Hello everyone, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for purchasing one of our wreath kits. I'm going to be showing you step by step how to create the gingerbread wreath kit. The advantage of this video is that you can pause it and rewind it, but I will be going through it in exactly the same way as I would be doing if you were here in the studio with me. The first thing that's really important is that you've got a nice space to work in. Preferably don't work anywhere where you have carpet because it tends to get a bit messy. Definitely have a broom or the hoover around so that you can sweep up when you're finished. You want to get everything out of your box. Things to look out for, which you could probably easily not see, are these two green wires. You actually only need one, but we've put in two just in case. So just put those at the side for the moment. That's going to be for your ribbon a bit later on. You'll also have a little black tissue wrapped little gift bag. You need to unwrap that. In that you'll find your wire, which is super important. You'll also find a piece of string and your ribbon. Your ribbon you can just put aside, maybe somewhere that's not too messy, and we'll use that a little bit later on. I would then get everything out, put all your greenery in one pile and all your decorations in the other pile, and then we will begin. So the first step is you should all have a moss covered wreath frame. It might be a little bit hairy around the outside, so what we want to do is just to give it a quick trim around just to neaten up a little bit. I also should have said it's very, very important that you have some lovely Christmas music playing and preferably a nice Christmas beverage of some description. I've got a coffee because it's 10 o'clock in the morning, but hopefully you'll have something more exciting than that. Once you've given it all a bit of a trim, you want to decide where the top of your wreath is, and you're going to take your string and go around the top, bringing the two ends together, and then I would suggest that you tie it in a double knot, as so, and then it really depends. If you have a doorknob that you're going to be tying it on, you might want to leave these loose, or if you've already got a hook there that you can just pop it onto, then do another knot at the top, probably again a double one, to create a little loop, and that's your top, and it's a good marking point. We then want to take our reel wire here and we want to attach it to the wreath frame. So you just want to find a spot. I'm just going to go to the left hand side as you're looking at it of my tying point, and I'm just going to push the end into the wreath frame. Moss is pretty secure and it kind of holds it in place, and then you want to go around a few times, pulling it really tight. If you're super strong at any point and you pull this so tight that it snaps, don't worry, we can just reattach it, and you just reattach it in exactly the same way as I've just shown you now. So then we're going to just put this to the side for the moment, and we're going to prep everything. So you will have either two really huge branches of blue spruce, or you'll have maybe 4 smaller ones. You will have more than enough to be able to cover the whole thing. Okay, so it's really important that we use the whole branch. We are at the school, it's really important to us about sustainability and making sure we don't have hardly any waste at all. And I'm going to show you how we can use every single section of this branch in your wreath. So the first step is to prep it, and what we're going to do is, I've got 1 or 2 here. We're going to just, and this is where garden secateurs are really good because it can sometimes be quite tough. You're going to cut off sections like that. Even little ones like this can also be used. So we're going to go through the whole thing, even cutting all the little ones. This one here, this is quite big, so I'm going to just snip these ones off. And the back one here, that's going to come off as well. The smell is amazing, and suddenly if you're not feeling Christmassy, you will start to feel really Christmassy. So at the top of the branch, I'm going to cut this section. So it's kind of, I've got quite small hands, but kind of like a hand and a bit. And then this section here, we can just discard that. So it's useful to have a bin. If you've got a compost, you can just pop that on afterwards. I'm going to go through all of these, just snipping them. Do be careful of your fingers when cutting. But we really want to make sure that sometimes people come and they just use all the tips of the branch, but really you can use the whole thing. So actually when it's all said and done, you should be left with just something like this, which you could discard. Now I'm going to carry on doing the rest of my branches. If you want to pause the video, it's a good opportunity to do the bits that we've just done, get everything prepped, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Once you've got all your spruce prepped and ready, that can just sit in a pile. You then need to have a look at the pine. Now, some of you might just have a few prep bits already, so you can just leave them like this, or some of you might have a longer piece. If you do have a longer piece, all you need to do is to cut it down into sections about this size. They don't have to be all the same. You can have some that are slightly longer than others, but just to kind of have more manageable size than the really big branches. You'll then have some eucalyptus here. You'll have about 3 stems of this, and what we want to do is we just want to sort of cut these up. So I'm going to just take this section like this to make a little sprig, and do the same there. I'm going to cut, and obviously each little stem is completely different, so you really have to sort of judge and see kind of the shape of it and what you'd like it to look like. But suddenly from 3 bits, we've now got a lovely little handful. So that's all my greenery prepped, which is great. And while we're making this wreath, we're going to add the decorations on as we go. Everything apart from the hydrangea heads. So the hydrangea heads, you just want to, these are quite delicate. So what we want to do is just want to put them over, perhaps with your ribbon, and we'll put those on at the end. Decoration wise, you've got loads of really beautiful decorations to add on, but we need to prep a few of them first. And the first one that we have to prep is pampas grass. So you'll all have a stem of pampas grass, and what we're going to do is we're just going to rip off sections like this. Now it's really up to you how floaty you want it to look. You can cut these sections down to make them a bit smaller, but you want to just peel it all off. Just be a little bit careful because this can give you a bit of a splinter. So just be mindful of that when you are prepping the pampas grass. So take them all off, and then the top, just going to snip off like this. This is when it gets very messy. And then we can discard that. That's my pampas grass all ready. Then we have some gypsophilia here. So you should have a few stems of this. Again, all we want to do is to break it down into smaller sections, cutting or tearing, whichever way you prefer, to make it into smaller sections like this. We have 2 types of statice. We've got this antique one here, and then the white snow one. Again, all we want to do is put it into smaller sections. You can, if you want, cut all of these pieces off, or you can leave them all like that, which is kind of what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to take all of those off. And do the same with the others. I'll keep going with that in a minute. What else have you got in your box? We have got some bunny tails here. The bunny tails, I would suggest maybe cutting the stems slightly, not too short, but just maybe kind of cutting a little bit of the stem off. The same with the oat, just chop a little bit, and also with the lavender as well. Once everything is prepped, all your decorations, it's a good idea to keep them all into their sections, and then we can start attaching it to your frame. Once you've prepped all of your decorations, you can do it in either 2 ways. So you can either create sections if you want it to be quite an ordered wreath, so like a nice pattern going all the way around. You might want to prep all of your sections first and have them all maybe 8 kind of clusters on your table ready to go, particularly if you want to sort of space out the eucalyptus. I don't tend to do it that way. I tend to kind of make it as I go along, and I don't really want it to be really symmetrical going all the way around. So I tend to just create as I go, but it's completely up to you which way you want to do it. So the first step is to take a bit of spruce, and what I would say is try and start with an easy one. So something like this, something that's kind of the size of a hand, that's got 3 points, is a really great place to start. You want to kind of remove the lower needles, So you've got a nice bare stem like this. The spruce is the bit of foliage that's going to go directly on top of the moss. We kind of use it as the base because it's nice and hardy, but it's probably not the most exciting thing on your table. And now we're going to create a cluster. So I'm going to pop, and this is the really fun bit, because you get to be as creative as you want to be. So we're going to just, and I would really urge you, don't copy exactly what I'm doing. Be as creative as you want. And I always say that maybe a Christmas drink helps with this section of the wreath making. So I'm just layering this up with the different foliages. So we've got the pine there, and then I'm going to add the eucalyptus, then I'm going to add on some statice like that, and what should I do next? And then I'm going to put on a bit of lavender. So that's going to be my first section. I would be cautious of not making it any bigger than this. If you make it really, really big, you run a risk of running out of ingredients. In this box, you are going to make a really beautiful sized wreath, but I would suggest this is the perfect size to create. Once you've got your first cluster, it is time to attach. It doesn't matter which way you go, either this way or this way, it's whichever way feels comfortable to you. But whichever way you start, you must continue in the same direction. For this next section, I'm going to bring the camera around and I'm going to put it over here so you won't see my face, but you will see exactly what my hands are doing. So for this section here, I'm going to put my first cluster on, and it's really important that you put your section so that the stems come towards the center of the wreath frame. You don't want them coming on the side and you don't want them coming this way. It's really important that they come down like so. And then you want to take your wire and bind the stems, pulling it really tight. And this is really important. You don't want to do it too loose. It's really important that you pull it really tight, going round once, going round another time, and maybe once more if you just want to be lucky. And then you can have a little play, but that's the first section of your wreath complete. So now I'm going to make another cluster. So maybe doing something a bit different. Take some of this, take some pampas. It is important to not forget that you've got hydrangeas as well, so kind of be mindful of where you're going to put your hydrangeas, and then you can leave a little bit of a space. So important to cut the ends so that they're all roughly the same length, something like that. And then we're going to add on in exactly the same way. So I put the first one going this way, so this one's also going to go this way. But what we're going to do is we're going to slightly overlap the mechanics of the first one with your next section. You don't want to do it so much so that basically it's squishing the first one and we don't see all this beautiful decorations, but just kind of so pushing it down a little bit more, bringing the stems towards the center of the wreath like so, and then covering up the mechanics, bringing it in and then going all the way around, putting it really tight like so. And that's my next one on. It's looking super lovely already. So you're going to keep going around doing that and then moving the wreath slowly as you add on your other sections. But what I'm going to do is I will put it on a quick speed so that you can see me doing all the rest of the wreath. But what I will show you now is how to create using little bits of spruce, the little bits that maybe aren't in one little branch. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the tutorial, it's really important that we use all the sections of our spruce. So and you'll be left with things like this, which you might be thinking, well, how on earth can I use this? So you've got 2 points here. This bit here is not particularly attractive. So all we're going to do is we're going to create a little sprig ourselves. So I'm just going to lie this piece on here and then pop another bit on like that. And then we've made a little branch. And it's really satisfying if you do try and just use all these little bits. And even if you've got anything in your garden that's quite hardy, do add it to the wreath. I think it's a really lovely touch when people do things like that. make your wreath as unique to you as possible. So I'm just going to add in a few more little bits here, put some bunny tails in. And in terms of the pattern of the wreath, like I mentioned before, it definitely doesn't have to be symmetrical. Mine never are. This is your wreath, it's your creation, and basically you can just have fun and do what you want with it. So there we go, adding it on in the same way, so coming in at that angle, overlapping the mechanics of the previous one, and going around the stems a few times, making sure they're super, super tight. So once you have got to your last section that we're just going to do here, we're going to make the cluster in exactly the same way. Just going to add my final decoration bits in. Bunny tails just here. And then you're going to add on in exactly the same way, but you want to lift your first cluster up and just tuck the last one in, just like so, and then go over with your wire, pulling it really tight. Having a little check. All lovely. And then what you want to do is you've got your wires still attached, so you're going to cut it off with your scissors. You can keep this for more crafty things. And then with the back of your wire, you just want to push that into the frame, like so. We're then going to add the hydrangea bits to finish off. And what you want to do is you want to take a piece of wire, you want it to be quite long, so something like that is perfect. And then you're going to bend over the top like this to create like a little hook almost. And then you're going to be really careful with the hydrangeas because they are very, very delicate. You're going to just place this little bend here just on top of the stem, like so. And then you're going to wrap the longer piece around the short end and around the stem, just like that. And then you're going to have a little look at your wreath frame, see where you want to place your hydrangea. So I'm going to put mine here. You can have a go at pushing through this wire all the way through the frame. I would probably think it won't go through because it's quite tough. But instead, what we can do is we can place the hydrangea there, go all the way around with your wire once, and then another time. And then you're going to cut off the end of the wire. And as we did when we cut it off, I'm going to just push the end into the side or the back of the wreath frame. Oops, sorry, just like so. Create your bow, and this is when you need your ribbon and one of your green wires. So it's quite nice to have some ribbon trailing down. So what I do is I create one loop and I pinch it and then create another loop that's hopefully the same size. And then we've got a little bit of a trail coming down. And then I'm going to take this wire and have one short end and one longer end, and then we bend it over the middle, bring the two ends together, and then we twist it at the back, like so, and you can rewind that if you want to. In terms of where you place your bow, you can put it anywhere you want. I'm quite enjoying putting it on the side at the moment, so I'm actually going to push my green wire through the back of the frame, and you'll see it's coming all the way through. So I'm going to pull it all the way back like that, cut this so it's shorter, bend it over and push the end into the back to create a staple. There you have it, there's the gingerbread wreath all made. I think she's really lovely and beautiful with loads of textures, so I hope you have a wonderful time making it. Thank you so much again for choosing one of our kits, and I hope you have a really wonderful Christmas.